All right, so one thing I noticed about Lamont Roach, and the reason why he was able, in my opinion, to beat Tank is his style. He has a style that's pretty much gives him an advantage over Tank because Lamont is a better inside fighter than Tank. Lamont typically uses the shoulder roll. He fights behind his shoulders, as you can see. Tank Davis throws power punches and he throws 1 and 2 punch combination. So it's low volume that gives Lamont just enough time to sit and block like he's doing right here, or to roll his shoulder and counter. So just stylistically, he was able to beat Tank to the punch, come back with straight shots, and at times hurt Tank because he could see everything that Tank was throwing. And the fact that Tank throws a lot of looping shots, like the one he just threw, that gives Lamar time to see it and roll it. If Tank threw more combinations and more straight shots, maybe Lamont would have been in some trouble. Who knows? But in my opinion, if Tank were to rematch Lamont, Lamont would probably win again. Or maybe they call it another draw. But just that style, that shoulder roll, and that L guard, 2 and 3 punches at a time is not going to do nothing to Lamont. So he's better than Tank. He's probably not as gifted, maybe not as overall skilled, but his style matches up well with Tank Davis. Kind of like Ken Norton and Muhammad Ali, but Lamont, he's more gifted than Ken Norton ever was, in my opinion. Now, there's some guys out there who could give Lamont a run for his money, and they both come from the same family. They happen to be brothers. I'm talking about none other than Gary Russell Jr. and Gary Antoine Russell. Now, I'm still watching the Tank little highlights, and then the portion with Gary Russell and Gary Antoine Russell gonna come up. But the reason why Lamont was able to get off on Tank in the middle of the fight is because Tank was missing a lot of shots. Lamont was making Tank miss. When you miss shots, what happens? You get tired. Your stamina goes down, right? Once your stamina goes down, you don't have the same reflexes, the same reaction to certain punches. So this clean shot that Lamont just hit Tank with, now he ducks Tank's next shot and then comes back up punching. But the clean shots that he was able to land in the middle of the fight and at the end of the fight, he probably wouldn't have landed that in round 1 or round 2 because Tank would have been more reflexive, more reactive. Right here, he was able to hurt Tank. And Tank gets knocked back, and then he ends up clinching. So this was a very dominant fight by Lamont. I don't know how they called it a draw, but it is what it is. Back to my previous statement. 2 guys that would give Lamont some trouble. I don't know if he could beat either one, and it would be a hell of a fight. I believe Lamont Roach is an A-class fighter. That's just my opinion, just based off what I've seen in this fight against Pitbull and this fight against Tank. This man understands distance and timing. He has great punch resistance, and he always comes to win. But Gary Russell Jr., as you can see right here in this last fight, I forgot the guy's name that he's fighting. Castada or something. What was that? Yeah, Casanita. Gary Russell Jr. is not throwing one punch, bro. That man is throwing 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Even now at 37 years old, still fast as hell. So when you have to roll 8 punches or 10 punches with the shoulder roll, it gets less and less effective. That's why Roy Jones, when he was in his prime, he beat James Toney. James Toney is an overall more talented fighter than Roy Jones, believe it or not. But with that speed kills, and speed is the neutralizer for the shoulder roll. That's why Sugar Ray Leonard has a good chance of beating Floyd Mayweather if they would ever fight. But Floyd has different styles, who knows. But this is Gary Antoine Russell, and you see he has the shoe shining, and he has some of the same speed of his older brother. Right here, he throws a 20-punch barrage on Karaoke. It's like, no, on Andy Hirioka. But my point being is that if somebody is using that shoulder roll right, and you throwing combinations, it makes it harder and harder for them to execute it. So both Russells would give Lamont a harder fight than Tank Davis could. It doesn't mean that they're better than Tank necessarily. The point of me making this video is to show people that it always comes down to styles. If somebody has a style that's a bad matchup against your style, you could be more talented, gifted, bigger, faster, stronger. But if their style matches up bad with your style, they're most likely going to beat you. But y'all let me know what y'all think, man.